So it's always hard to have the first session after lunch. So now it's my pleasure to, I don't know, wake you up, get out of the, what we call in German, Fresskoma. What I need is your full attention. I know that many of you have a lot of email stuff to do, that you look at on your smartphone every minute, because that's a lot of work to do. But I was asked by Marco to do the workshop because in the VC business and in the startup business, there are a lot of, I call it information gaps when it comes to search data, big data and search, and a lot of things that can be measured, that in the PPC business, that's pretty clear, but there are a lot of gaps. And when search is evolving so fast, like it is at the moment, these gaps will be bigger and bigger in the future. And what we do, so I'm Marcus Tober, I'm the founder of Searchmetrics. I studied computer science, and I'm in the business, or let's say in the search business, since over 12 years now. I worked for companies like Idealo in 2004 and 2005, got a lot of knowledge, and out of this very technical driven approach, I built Searchmetrics. And what I want to do now is, or today is, I will share some insights with you, what is important, and I also, I can't call it basics, but I put some basic information into my presentation that we are on the same level. I have my colleague and friend here with me, that's Paul. Paul represents our London office. And I really want to have that kind of workshop character. So I can talk for 45 minutes and, suck out the oxygen out of your brain, and, you go out and you're done. But my goal is that you go out and you really say, okay, I understood everything. And I don't know, if you're a VC, if you get reports from your startups, that you understand the real numbers, because it's always like a sinus wave, right? VCs are always on the top when the founder is at the bottom, and these kind of sinus wave, I want to give you where's the average. Yeah, Searchmetrics is based in Berlin. We made everything with staff in Berlin, so the whole development team stays in Berlin. But overall, globally, we have over 10 people in the US. We have some stuff here in England, but most of the stuff is based in Berlin. Okay, one information, if you want to have the deck, because I have a lot of information in it, just send me an email. It's marcus@searchmetrics.com. I just sent you the deck. Okay, this is where we are at the moment. So the whole World Wide Web has gotten a big mess. And the reason it has gotten a big mess is that you have trillions of documents out there available, publicly available, and everybody thinks, okay, I have the most useful information, I have the best product, I'm better than all the others, and that's crap, because the user only wants to have one result, the best result. And what Google is trying to do, Google is trying to find the messy within the mess, right? And it's really hard, because if you go into very competitive market, go into the finance market, or go into the travel industry, or the classifieds, it's very competitive, and you have comparable products. If you go to Expedia or to Kayak or to TripAdvisor, they have the same hotels. So this is a challenge for search engines and for users to really find, okay, this is the messy, this is what I really want to have. And this is what Google tries to do. Google tries to deliver the best results. This is if you Google, right? You get the mission. You get the mission that it's their goal to organize the world's information and make it universally available to everybody. And don't forget that. Some numbers from Google. The number of documents that they indexed from 1998 to now, and you see from 25 million in the past to now over 50 trillion documents indexed by Google. Trivia to you, I made a query yesterday in the morning for our UK index. How many different URLs do we have for more than 10 million keywords? So that means, okay, 10 million keywords we crawled, and we have, for every keyword, we have 50 results. That means you can have up to 500 million different results. What do you think, how many different URLs we found? You understand the question? So you can have multiple rankings with one URL, right? So how many different we found? Best case, 500 million. What do you think?
100.
Sorry?
100.
It's a good guess. 31. So we found 31 million different URLs. So Google indexed, that's globally 50 trillion documents, but I'm pretty sure if we make the same analysis for the World Wide Web, it will look the same, it will have the same ratio. So there's a lot of useless conversation out there, and Google has to filter out the noise, and this is a big challenge. Yeah, that's the puzzle piece, the big challenge, and Google tries to find the Mona Lisa. So I have a lot of analogies when it comes to this. But I have more than just some nice pictures. Okay, Eric Schmidt said in 2010, the internet is fast becoming a cesspool. This is what I mean with, okay, you have a lot of redundancy and useless conversation. And then he said something which is really interesting: brands are the solution, not the problem. And when it comes to brands, that doesn't mean that Oliver Samwer mentioned in the morning Marks & Spencer. So they're an offline brand, but that doesn't mean that they're at the same time an online brand. Look at Amazon. It's an online-only business, and they really made it that Amazon has gotten a synonym for online shopping. And that's why you can really, with a lot of effort within online, you can get a brand. That doesn't mean that if you don't have a big brand in the offline world, that you can't become a brand in the online world. This is SEO in the past. It was really simple. You needed only this a Swiss knife, and it was like cheating. But Google invented a lot of changes in the algorithm to make sure that they can at least filter out some noise. Some numbers from 2008 when they had 2 major updates to 2012 when they had more than 25 major updates, only the updates that they announced. That doesn't mean that all the changes that are ongoing all the time. And in 2013, they restructured their whole algorithm, and now they're able to bake all the changes in real time in their algorithm. So it could mean that you have updates every day, and that doesn't mean that Google has these kind of really major updates anymore. You heard about Panda and Penguin, I'm pretty sure. I have some examples of big brands that really lost after these updates, and now Google is able to do that in real time. So Google, in 2013, actually has gotten a little bit more complicated. This is something how I see how you have to use the search data. So at the moment, and this is the biggest problem for everybody who's in the game, because you always anticipate, because what happened or worked in the past maybe should work in the future, and that's gone. Look at link building, for example. Link building is something that's still pretty important. I can show you the proof that that's important. But what you did in the past was you understood a system like, okay, the keyword within an anchor text is important, and you repeated it all the time. And that became a threat. So many people that just did the same on and on, they have a problem now and in the future. That's why most of the companies, they only focus on the long-term perspective because they anticipated from the past. But more important is, and this is what Eric Schmidt said too, is the user is important, because the user makes the decision now. And if the user doesn't like your content, he leaves. And this is something that Google can see. They have Chrome, they have DoubleClick, they have their search behavioral data, they have their Google Plus button integrations, so they can see, let's say, 50% of all the traffic in the global internet, and this is significant enough to make predictions or estimations for nearly everything. How do PPC teams and SEO teams work together? So we are working at Searchmetrics with global brands. So Searchmetrics is enterprise-driven. So we have companies like Walgreens, eBay, Groupon as customers, and what we always see is there's a big gap in communication between PPC and SEO. PPC is performance-driven. They have the big budget. They're super fast, because if I try something out today, I will get the result. If I have a lot of traffic, I can get the result at the same day or the day after. So, and then I can continue to improve that. In SEO, that's always long-term driven. It's tiny budget, but big leverage. And you have a kind of an uncertainty because when there's the next Google update, maybe you run into a problem, which I want to show you how you can just be clear that in the future that won't be a problem anymore. This is how Searchmetrics thinks and works. So our vision is that we integrate many data sources. So what we do is we integrate traffic data from 7 different sources like Google Analytics, Site Catalyst, Cometrics, Web Trends. So if you have, or AT Internet, biggest web analytics company in France, we integrated data, and then you see everything that comes out of PPC, and you can use it as a leverage in SEO too. And the biggest thing is, and this is what many companies don't understand, when you dominate the SERPs, which means you have a good ranking in PPC and you have a good ranking in SEO, then you have a lower cost per conversion when it comes to paid search, because you can use both. And then you can dominate because you can be negative in your PPC campaign when you use SEO, organic search, as a leverage. We made an example with Performix and Adobe 1.5 years ago with General Motors. And we increased their visibility in organic search, and we decreased their overall cost per conversion by 22%, just with some little changes. And that's really cool when it comes to optimizing your whole cost structure. This is what we did. It's some simple graphs. So you have your ROI, which is the top line, and then if you increase the bottom line, the SEO traffic, which still makes 90% of the global traffic, you can just go into a negative ROI when it comes to PPC only, but you use that in terms of reducing the cost per conversion. Okay, some interesting information, and this is what you can download on our homepage. What we regularly do is every half a year we try to understand or reverse engineer what's happening within the Google index. It's getting more complicated because Google is, or all search engines, they're using more user behavioral data. And you can't really put user behavior into numbers. That's complicated because it's different for every user. But what you can do is you can analyze specific parameters like what's the average number of backlinks on the first position? What's the average number on the second position and the third position? And if you do it for hundreds of thousands of keywords and URLs, you get a very good picture. And if you compare the UK, for example, with Turkey, I was in Istanbul last week, it's a different picture. So you can still spam a lot in Turkey, which is interesting, or you can also still spam a lot in Scandinavia, which I thought was always the same developed than UK, but it's not. And the Google engineer told me, yeah, we don't have a lot of team members in our search quality team, which is interesting, that Google is using a lot of manual data to improve the results. I show you some details out of that study. This is what you can't do anymore. This worked in the past. SEO still has this kind of feeling that if there's an SEO, they're using something that's magical, that's in a black box, that they do something that nobody understands. But that's gone because you can't really fuck Google anymore, what you could do in the past. So I have a lot of friends, they made a lot of money some years ago, but this is gone. It's, as a self-employed guy, to build something that's really cool and SEO only, that's gone. And that's why the rules that I have at the end of my presentation are pretty important for every business. Yeah, he celebrated too soon because he didn't understood the long-term game. So yeah, Lance Armstrong for all of you who don't know that guy. Talk about some animals in the Google Zoo. Number one is about content quality, which is important. And I have some examples from companies that went public during that phase, like Demand Media. I think they went public with a $1.6 billion valuation, and then they increased to 1.8. And after the first Google update, they dropped by 500 million on the same day to 1.3 billion. So you also see there's a big impact on business models that are heavily depending on search. These are this is a question that Google asked their quality raters. And this question is, would you trust the information presented in this article? And when I searched for lung cancer symptoms, I found this site, HealthEzine, before the Panda updates. So they had some very good rankings for lung cancer symptoms. But if you now take, so they're gone, they're not ranking anymore. But if you take a look on the site and you see the reason, so the author is admin, so is it a doctor or who's admin? Then you only see a very short text, very keyword optimized. And the first link is to Wikipedia because nearly the whole text is just copied from Wikipedia. So there were a lot of business model in the past that thought, okay, search engines, they need text. We just put some text on my website without a lot of effort, and then I can rank. And this is gone. If you search for cancer or lung cancer symptoms, you will find a similar result on Google. You see that kind of big knowledge graph integration. I had 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, I had a presentation where I put just 100 different knowledge graph integrations in my presentation. It was a cool slideshow. But the people realized, oh wow, this is crazy, because if you search for cancer symptoms or lung cancer symptoms, you nearly don't see other results anymore. And the reason is that Google cares about sensible information. And cancer symptoms, this is something that's sensible. They can't present these kind of sites anymore, because if I'm serious about my health and this is a result, then that will impact the overall Google experience. If you click on WebMD, which is one of the top results, you see this. You see it's written by a doctor. You have a very good introduction about the problem itself, and then you have a very good organized text, and this is something that lets you feel, okay, this is valuable information for me. And this is just an example how Google values content. So all the stuff like, oh, I need a text because Google don't understand pictures, and I have an e-commerce shop, I just add text in the footer or in the sidebar or somewhere, that won't work in the future anymore. It's still working a bit, but that will be gone. Okay, some content stuff. As I said, you can just download the study from our website, or you can just drop me an email. That's not a problem. If you take a look on these factors, you can see that when it comes to content, there's a very small correlation on some factors. For example, when it comes to, oh, there's the keyword in the title tag, or there's a keyword in the H1 or so. But when I talk about importance or ranking factors, then you have to realize that if everybody is using, for example, the keyword in the content, there will be a very low correlation. So that doesn't mean that that's a small ranking factor. It's the opposite. It's a very strong ranking factor. So don't judge by first impression. Yeah? Maybe you remember her. She won, I think it's 3 years ago, the what is it? Idol something. What is it?
Britain's Got Talent. Was it actually?
Yeah. Britain's what? Britain's
Got Talent.
Okay, Britain's Got Talent. And Susan Boyle, she won, and that's why don't judge by first impression. So this is an example of existence of H1, just an example, because many people, they don't understand when we release some numbers. That's why I want to explain it a little bit. So 78% of every website is using H1. Only there's a small gap on the first rankings, which is typically the brand factor, because Google puts higher value on brand. So if you are Adidas and someone is looking for Adidas shoes, Google wants to rank Adidas. But that doesn't mean that Adidas typically has to put Adidas shoes exactly in the H1 or so. But this is a brand phenomenon. But this, you see, this line represents nearly 80% of all websites. So if it has a small correlation, which it has, that doesn't mean it's a low ranking factor, just as an explanation. And sometimes, I have some examples in my presentation about Searchmetrics. Sometimes the small things make a difference. So you always have to have the big picture, but sometimes, this is for next.co.uk, you can see the colorful lines. The green one is for their rankings for specific terms, and they only fixed one thing, and they increased their ranking just after the fix, which is important, because that's super detailed. Sometimes that will help, but in the end, you always need a very holistic view about your whole entity or your whole website. Question number 3 is, does the site have duplicate, overlapping, or redundant articles? This is an example of Wikipedia. I just copied some parts of their loan text. When I search at Google, I have more than 82,000 duplicates. So many sites think, okay, I want to have some, good rankings in the finance industry because they can monetize it, very high CPCs. This is also something that can't work in the future anymore. And if I go on Ehow, this is one of the most popular examples. And I saw a keynote 2 weeks ago from the founder of Mahalo. Maybe you remember Mahalo. Jason, I forgot the last name, is the founder. And they had very, very good traffic and business with a similar model than Ehow. And it's looking nice. It's a nice site, but let's take an example. If you search for how to get pregnant on Ehow, and you see that at the pagination, it's more than 16 pages. And if you search on Google how many articles they have with get pregnant in the title tag, you get more than 2,000 or 2,740. And please tell me, are there 2,740 ways to get pregnant? I don't really know. And this is what Ehow did in the past, right? So they created content just for search engines, not for the user. And this is something that won't work in the future. And Google has gotten really good. So this is Ehow. When you take a look at their performance for the past 3 years, you can see that they have very big drops. With the second Panda update, they got a big hit. And yeah, also with the 25th update. So there will be more updates, but it doesn't matter. Don't count the updates anymore. It's about, making something that the user really wants, and then the search engine also can value that. And this is just one example. So good night, Ehow. And I don't know what the valuation is at the moment, but I'm pretty sure it's under the first, sorry? 400 million? Oh, you just checked that? Ah, interesting. Yeah, 400 million. This is something we can do for you. So we measure content by relevancy. So we have a big database. We do a TF-IDF analysis. So this is something you can check automatically with Searchmetrics. And it is possible because we crawl billions of pages and we see the relationship. So, for example, we know that there is a relationship between dancing school and dancing teacher and how to dance. So this is how we can leverage topics. Then it's not a one-dimensional like in Ehow. It's multi-dimensional because you cover everything according to one topic in one article. And this is what Google wants. Google wants that you cover all the different facets for a topic, and then the user has a much better experience. Number 2 is the link quality. I'm pretty sure that all VCs and founders and business owners in this room heard about that links are important, but there's a very fast increase of development within Google to identify bad links. And bad links could be anything that really looks weird, or sometimes is a good link, but you get affected by a phenomenon that we call honeypot. Honeypot is a website, a domain that sells a lot of links, and if you have good natural links on these sites, you get a flag, a mark that your link could also harm the ranking. And I'll show you some examples of these kind of honeypots. When you take a look on the correlation, this is from 2012, this is from 13, with the bars, you can see what really changed. And there's only one big change because the correlation for the percentage of backlinks with keyword in the anchor text dropped, and all the others increased. So what is the interpretation of that? The interpretation is that the keyword information within the anchor text has gotten low interesting for Google, but when you put too much weight on that in the past, I have some examples, then you can get into very serious trouble. And the thing is, Google never forgets. When you did something wrong 2 years ago, it will follow you for the next years because you still have these problems and you have to get rid of them. This is how a correlation looks like when it comes to averages. So this is the average number of links on the first position down to the 30th position. So this is how a good correlation looks like. Yeah, rest in peace, anchor text. This is very important information. And if you get reports from your startups, maybe you just check out how their link profile is, just as an information. So we'll just go over that. Big brand, they had a very big session yesterday, HomeAway. HomeAway bought holiday rentals some years ago in UK. And what you can see here on holiday rentals is, that's the blue line, they got into some serious problems with the Google link quality because they were one of the famous victims in UK after the Penguin update here. So the drop that you see here, this is Penguin. And then they tried something that didn't work. They rebranded to homeaway.co.uk. They thought, all right, we can get rid of our problems when we just rebrand. But what you can see is it didn't work, right? So they just were on the same level, and they thought, okay, they can just go back to the performance they had before. But that not happened, because Google never forgets. And if you make a redirect from one page to another, you redirect the problems too. So you can't just wash out your problems. But what they did then, that was clever, and they needed a year to regain their performance. What they did is they deleted a lot of crappy, bad links, and they built new links at the same time. Just, you have to do something. If you got hit by, let's say, an update or a penalty, you have to do something. And now we come to the next strategy of Google. Oh, yeah, Rocky, they recovered. Nice. Sure, I have some more examples. Okay, this is compare the market. They also have big problems, but only as examples. They didn't recover. And yeah, this is also super important because once you reach a very comfortable position, it doesn't matter if it's PPC, SEO, whatsoever. It doesn't matter. You get lazy, right? People are always lazy. I'm lazy too. When I'm number one for something, I say, okay, I'm number one. But this is a big problem because it's really hard to motivate themselves once you reach something which is great. And this is an example from Sunmaster. They got into problems several times. So this is the second penguin, and they got hit by several penguins, and they didn't really, motivated themselves, I guess, to get rid of their problems. And a very important message for you is, this is the synonym for Sunmaster. When you combine your business model with something that's, let's say, crap, then you get, in the end, a lot of crap. And the reason I have this, no, you're laughing. You can, that was my goal. But I talked to many business owners, and what they did is they outsourced a lot of work to students internally or to some agencies or to whatsoever, and they don't control the quality. And what I mean is, when you do something wrong today, maybe it works, but it could be that in a year or 2 years that you really get into serious problems. And like Sunmaster, they had a very good performance, but with several updates, they just lost their credibility at Google. And I'm pretty sure if they don't really work hard again, they will never get back their credibility and their performance. And this is very important because I know many businesses that are heavily depending on search. And when they just outsource something that's so super important to cheap co-workers, students, whatsoever, then you don't control the quality, then you can run into serious problems, even if you are a brand. So rest in peace, Sunmaster. How can you fight this? Because this is also about big data. What we do is we help companies, or you can do this for your own. You can play the Where's Waldo game, right? So I guess you know Where's Waldo, and this is an example. So this represents all of your backlinks. And what you have to do is you have to find the Waldo or the honeypots. Some examples I can, if you're interested, I can show you after the workshop some real world examples. I can't share this on stage because they have non-disclosure agreements, but this is what really happened. So some big brands, they got hit by Penguin and other updates. And what we did with the data that we have, we just put all the sources, all the backlinks together, and we looked for overlapping problems. And this is what I call honeypot. A link could really look great, right, on a good brand, on a, let's say, a newspaper site. So there were some newspaper issues with newspaper sites here in UK some months ago with the Interflora problem. And this is what you should do. You have to find the honeypots because these are the problems, and you have to get rid of these problems. And there are penalties. Some examples: Walmart, they had a problem with Google, and they recovered to 67% back within a year. Then there's Target, same problem. Not the same date. It wasn't Panda or Penguin. That was a manual update. 62%. And there's eBay. It's a customer of Searchmetrics. They recovered to 24% back, 123. So, which is even better because they're using Searchmetrics. But what happened here is Google gave them a penalty. Penalty really sounds really bad, but what happened is Google found something on Target, Walmart, also on Amazon.com. They found something they didn't like. And what they didn't like was thin content. And eBay had a lot of thin content because they had a lot of offers that expired, and then they had a lot of sites without content. Then this is a very bad user experience, right? So if you go onto a site, there's no offer available anymore, and then you go back to Google to search, you click another result, and you stay longer on the other one. And that gives Google a sign that there's something wrong on the other page. And that happened also to Amazon because they have a lot of thin search pages, or to Target, a lot of thin search pages. And what I mean with penalty is that you can be a brand, but that doesn't mean that you're not safe. That can happen to everybody. Yeah, this is what I mentioned, Interflora. It was beginning of the year and a lot of rumors in the press. And what happened to them is that they bought a lot of advertorials on newspaper sites, and they just cheated because it was always flowers or flower delivery service in the anchor text. And that's why Google just gave them a penalty. This. Blah, blah, blah. As I said, I have a lot of slides, and you can check them out later if you want. So what's the time? All right. Okay, what the fuck did they do? This is one tweet they got. So they also lied about what really happened, but in the end, they recovered, at least at 80%. Another analogy is, okay, if you're like this and you want to get like this, which is before and after, and I guess she can be proud of, you have to stay focused. And staying focused means if you want to build very good business, and I have many examples. So there was a website. They suffered for about a year and lost visibility on, and then they came to me with the idea, hey, we bought a database with millions of entries. And they had already millions of articles and a lot of problems. And then they came to me, hey, we buy millions of more contents, right? Oh, no, put this away, please. That's no. And they didn't get it, right? Because if they have a problem with thin content, to buy more thin content makes no sense, right? So if you don't focus, and if you don't really focus on what the user wants to have, and you do the same crap that you did on and on in the past, then you can't really be successful. And look at the Zalandos, or look at the Amazons, or look at the really successful websites. They have a very good holistic strategy. They focus on the user. Look at Amazon or Zalando, they're really focused. And then they add value. If they add value for the user, they add value for search engines. And this is a very good example. And when it comes to valuation, there's the social graph. I showed you the correlations about social. So social is something that's important because social gives you a better understanding how the content, how great your content is. These are the correlations again, as I said, remember. Don't judge by first impression. It doesn't mean it's the strongest ranking factor, but it is important for search engines. And Google announced last week that they connected Google Plus with YouTube. So if you want to make a comment on YouTube, you have to have a Google Plus account. Some months before, they connected the Google Play Store with Google Plus. So every Google Plus, or every review on Google Plus, on Play Store, sorry, is going into your profile on Google Plus. They connected Zagat with Google Plus, and they will do it with Google Glass. They will force it on Android with more than 80% market share. They will really force using Google Plus. And this is one of the reasons. It is the social graph data. It's not the goal of Google to be the next social network, to beat Facebook. The goal is to have the social graph data, to understand the user, to really know what the user likes, the friends, and all this stuff. That's why this is so important. Yeah, and of course we can measure the social engagement within our software. Some numbers about the worldwide usage. So these are actual numbers. So 1.2 billion active users, so with at least one login in a month on Facebook, 300 million on Google+. The 300 million are not officially from Google. This is what we saw because we scrape a lot of data from Google+. We crawl a lot of data, from Google+, and we analyze the number of posts that the user are doing. And what we also found is that more than 75% of the registered Google Plus accounts have no post at all. So you really see that Google is forcing this stuff, but there's less activity in Google Plus. Yeah, he is one of the judges when it comes to all the talent shows. And with social and the social graph data, the judges turn into the user, right? Because the user, they click, they spend time on the site, they like stuff, they share the stuff, they +1 the stuff, they tweet the stuff and all that. And with more and more data, these signals become more important. And I'm sure now that the social graph data will be the most important parameter or the most important part within the equation of the rankings within the next years. Yeah, if you fight the spam in the World Wide Web and you remember the messy slide or the mess slide, the big mess, you can only fight the spam if you take the user signals. This is the same, but with ranking, and you get a higher CTR, you get better user signals, you get higher relevance, and then directly you get better rankings. But I think that's super clear now. Some numbers, also some actual numbers. So what we are doing is we have 26 trillion social signals in our database, which we crawl every day. Not every signal every day, but overall that's the cumulative number, 26 trillion. And this is the growth of the two social networks. This is for Facebook, and the other one is for Google+. And you can see with every big increase, Google implemented something new in Google+. So Zagat and Play Store, and this is something that really drives the growth of the activity or the signals in Google+. When it comes to absolute numbers, it looks different. So this is for Google US, sorry, it's not worldwide, it's globally, it's for Google US. But you can see that Google is close to 20% of the overall share of activities, which is interesting because 2 years ago, nobody thought that Google Plus will be a success. So when I was at NOAH 2 years ago, I think it was around very a good time around Google Plus and some rumors, and that was really a time when nobody believed that it will be successful. Everybody thought, okay, it's like Google Wave or the other failures that Google has. And one of the reasons, also Google is using social data that they crawl Facebook. They always deny that they can access Facebook data, but Facebook are changing the privacy setting all the time. You have to check your Facebook account too, because Facebook is really clever and have these small iterations, and a lot of the Facebook data is now publicly available. At least the name, at least some more information, and this is what Google is crawling also. So if you check out Google today, they have more than 4 billion, so 5 is just an estimate for end of the year, they have more than 4 billion documents in the index only from Facebook.com. So Facebook is really big part of the whole Google index. Something that is also interesting, but it's not really scientific driven. We took the last 18 months of social signals and we just took a look into the future. We are not a gardener, we are not a forester or so. We only have 40 developers, small team and so, but what we did is we took our numbers and we made an estimate for the future when it comes to the growth and to the signals. And what we found out is, and this is something, remember, not scientific driven, but it's from something that could happen, that there will be a time not very far away that where Google Plus, when it comes to the activity, will overtake Facebook. And then it's getting more and more interesting to take a look on Google Plus. I think you know that. Okay. Next thing, next analogy. Why social signals are also something that could point into a different direction or in the wrong direction. Do you remember this fresco from last year? It was in a small Spanish village, and an elderly woman tried to fix that fresco, and it got a lot of noise, a lot of social stuff, a lot of links. And if you search for fresco, just fresco in Google, or if you look for a search for fresco Jesus or fresco Jesus Christ, you always get this. And when you take the social graph data and you're using it too strong, maybe this is the result out of that noise. But the question is, if you search for fresco and you get this, or fresco Jesus Christ, you don't get the left picture. Sorry, don't get me wrong, you get the right one, right? So this is something you can call it art, but I don't know if this is really what the user wanted. But this is an example how too many signals can lead into the, let's say, not the best direction or the best user experience. Okay, I also wanted to give you time to ask questions. So I have more stuff. As I said, you can download this stuff. One last thing, because this is really new stuff. So some weeks ago, or you can say some months ago, Google changed how to measure search. So this is what we had before the update, and it's the not provided update. So Google is changed the whole search to HTTPS. So the referrer itself is encrypted, and what they do too is they have a redirect to kick out the keyword information, so that you can't measure the keyword anymore. You only can measure the keyword within PPC. Before that, and this is an analogy, so imagine you have a local store, a physical store out there in London, and you see people walking into the store, and you can have some bubbles on their head, and you say, okay, I want to have an iPhone 60 gigabyte white, a good deal, so a query. And there's another one who went into the store, he says, okay, I want to have a smartphone. So you have the intention, the user intention. So with the keyword query, you can understand the intention, right? And this intention went away with the not provided. So the user intention is not known anymore. This is something that really affects search, because if you don't have the intention, how do you optimize? And this is something this is really complicated. So you're all business guys, right? And business means you have to make decisions based on accurate data. And if you have no accuracy anymore in data, what you can do? So I'm talking to many SEOs in the US, and for me it seems that they lost their head a little bit. So they talk about, okay, then now without keywords we can be creative. We can now make creative stuff. Hey, wow. But if you go to the PPC guys, they say, oh, I make decisions based on CPO and CPM, and this is really super marginal, and then I can scale and all this stuff. So you really see two worlds, and then I can only recommend look back, because if you put both together, and this is what we are doing, and this is this. If you connect all the different data sets like PPC and analytics data and Google Webmaster Tools data, or also Bing Webmaster Tools, and also our data, you can have a data deduction based on these informations, and you can still have valuable information. So I have some screenshots, but for me more important is that you go out and you understand, okay, there's a gap that's not provided. You can't make the decisions based on really valuable information anymore. That's why I have to put a lot of data sources together to have at least a small or a big percentage of the information I had before to make my decisions. And if you can do that, you have a big advantage. Otherwise, you can go to your boss as an SEO and say, okay, I want to have $50,000 for every month, not for link building anymore. No, I want to have it for creative content. Haha. Yeah, but this is something that can't really work if you don't know what is the outcome. All right, I do it quick. 5 rules to deal with everything according to search. Try to solve real people problems, make their life easier. If you try to just fake, just copy something, you get hit. If you don't engage with the user, you have a problem because social graph data, user engagement will be more important. Next thing is become a brand. This is really important. If you're not a brand, you don't get a lot of recurring users. That means you're really depending on search traffic, and that can hurt your business in the end, in the long term, because you need recurring users. Number 4 is get attention. If you don't get attention, the people won't remember you, right? So it's in combination with rule 3, become a brand. And if this is your business, okay, we need 5,000 Twitter followers. Oh, right, we need 10,000 Facebook shares. Oh, yeah, we need very cheap content. We have guys that make great content. So $5 for an article, yeah. Or if you buy, PageRank links still for some bucks, okay, if this is the way you want to build your business, okay, you got, good night in the end. And rule number 5, don't think short term, because that's a big problem. And the Ehow guy or demand media guys, I think they had luck, but that doesn't mean that you always have luck if you want to build a very big business. So if the valuation is 400 million now, from 1.6 billion to 400 million, that's a big problem, but hopefully that they sold their shares. But okay, this is it. I think we still have 10 minutes, I guess 10 minutes or 5 minutes. We have a microphone, we have Paul, we have another microphone, we can answer questions. We can also have, very detailed questions if you want. As I said, I'm the techie in the company.
Hi, I work for HomeAway, so I was interested by your holiday rentals example. My understanding of that was the search visibility went down because Google stopped giving branded terms the benefit of the doubt. So if people were looking for holiday rentals in the UK, that would be seen as a search for our brand rather than for the category type?
No, if you have this phenomenon, then you have a decline over many months or years. Because if you build a new brand, the people start searching for the new brand.
I'm not talking about the brand drop-off, where we switched brand, that made sense. But the earlier one, you seem to be suggesting, was because of link building. It may have been, you'll know better than me.
It was an issue because of link building.
Okay.
So the first drop was an issue because of link building, and the second drop was the rebranding. They shut down the old domain and launched homeaway.co.uk at the same time. Yeah. So they redirected the whole content.
Yeah, no, I get that one. It's just the first one I think might have been, or I was under the impression was because they stopped giving brands like holiday rentals or our brand in US bed and breakfast the benefit of the doubt in terms of people looking for that genre of search, but I don't know.
Are you from this company?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a different opinion, but we can discuss this after the presentation, because when you have a drop at one date, exactly, if you lose, let's say, 20 or more %, and you have a lot of other victims at the same time, you're clear that you fell into a pattern of a Google update. Sometimes it's just coincidence, that's the same time, but in that case, and you can be lucky because you increased your visibility to the point you had before, it's a very important sign that you have to get rid of something that's really bad. Okay. So I know it's super hot, the carbohydrates after the lunch and all this stuff, but we still have room for some questions.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, there is this dilemma that a smaller an entrepreneur has sometimes when he's competing with somebody like Rocket Internet in a specific market. And the dilemma here is that Rocket Internet, for instance, they have their own in-house SEO team.
Yeah.
So can a cooperation with a company like Searchmetrics help this smaller company overcome the know-how, supposedly the know-how accumulated in a company like Rocket Powerhouse, let's say?
So what we are doing in our company and with our software is we try to show you opportunities. Because if there's a saturated market like the retail industry, you think there's never a chance to really get a big or at least a significant market share, but it's wrong. Because at first, 25% of all the queries made every day are new queries. So that means there are new searches every day. And all the big brands, they don't know these searches before. It's heavily informational driven, okay? You're looking more for the transactional search driven intention. But there will always be ways to improve your product in a way to get that kind of snowball impact, that you get links naturally, that you get a lot of social signals naturally. So if you start a new business in a very saturated market, like in e-commerce, you have the Zalandos and ASOS and the Marks and Spencers and so, you need to create something that's not a Me Too product, because if it's Me Too and you're only cheaper than the others, you don't survive. But if you have added value that puts you into a position where you get a lot of natural links and a lot of social signals, I think this is more important because that drives links in the long term too. You can win the game. Otherwise, if you say, okay, I'm just cheaper than Zalando and I produce my stuff in China and it's looks the same, I think that can't work. So search has gotten more competitive, and it doesn't matter if it's PPC, organic search or so. It's very saturated, and that's why only new it's only models that really add a lot of value to the user can survive.
Yeah, I think you started it yesterday about mobile traffic.
Yeah,
our mobile traffic has risen from 5%, I don't know, to 17% or something like that. How is the impact for Google? What do you have to do to get also the mobile traffic in Google? I
think the percentage depends on the industry. So if it comes to a very old school industry, I think it's not 70%, it's less. You mean 17? Yeah, but there are businesses, they have about 50% of their traffic from mobile. So it really depends on the business, but you're right. So with the mobile devices, the user wants to have a different search experience. That's why search engines are looking for something that really fits to the user experience. So if I'm looking on my smartphone for information, I get a desktop version of a website, which I have to pinch and zoom all the time. I just leave and then I go to another website. This is my typical behavior. The CTRs are also different on mobile phones. So on desktop PC, there's a CTR curve in average where you still have, let's say, 2-point-something% of clicks on the last result. On mobile phones, it's even less. So the user wants to have a result much quicker than on desktop. So the thing is for search engines, they have to make sure that you get the best user experience. And Google announced in April that having a good mobile website will have an impact on rankings. So Google announced officially mobile performance will be a ranking factor. The studies show that there is a slight difference on mobile devices that really makes sense when it comes to the device. If I'm looking for Netflix on an Android, I get Play Store. If I'm looking for an iPhone on an iOS device, I get the Apple Store. So this is a difference, and that makes sense. But I think these situations or this gap will be bigger in the future, and with more mobile devices, it will become mobile first. And then SEO will also switch to more mobile devices. You can optimize for mobile because you can, if you have responsive design, so you have the same URL and same content or sometimes smaller content, just if you crawl a website, change the user agent and crawl it like a smartphone. And then you can also compare these results to the results that are ranking. So this is the typical behavior. You always reverse engineer what's going on. You can't anticipate what Google will do in the next years. That's not possible. But mobile will become a big thing for optimization. Definitely. I think because it's now 3 p.m., I think we are done, and I hope that you learned something and you go out and you just, change a little bit the way you look on websites and how you do your business in search. Thanks.